Hello, St. Paul's. I'm Reverend Richard Hogue, and it's wonderful to be doing this letter with you all today. I once saw a children's sermon where the preacher reminded us that we are all under new construction by God as disciples. These past 22 months during COVID felt nothing like planned construction, and yet God was able to build new relationships in that time. And I witnessed this most powerfully through a ministry I started at St. Andrews in Encinitas that I'm happy to continue here at St. Paul's in conjunction with the folks who come from St. Andrews and Encinitas. And that's a young adult Bible study. For anyone who might be interested by the time you're done watching this video or reading the letter online, know that we meet second and fourth Wednesdays of the month at 7:30 via Zoom. The links are in our calendar on St. Paul's website. But if you'd prefer to get them from me directly, please feel free to email me and I'll send them to you. The next one will be December 22nd at 7:30 in the evening. Over the course of the past year, several of us deepened our relationships and we broadened our relationships and we found more space for our faith to grow. We broaden our relationships even as we just had a few new people join us, and while some left over that time, most remained. If you'll allow me, there's another word floating around in theological circles these days, and it's been for some time now. You likely heard me use it a few times during my first sermon with you all. That word is deconstruction. It's somewhat a loaded phrase, as it's often taken as removing faith or becoming somewhat cool to aspects of religious traditions. But like in construction, where it matters what you're putting together, in deconstruction, it's important to understand what is being taken apart and what is left to work with. St. Peter reminds the temple elite after the first Easter season that the stone that was rejected by you, the builders, it has become the cornerstone. What I hope the young adult Bible study is doing, besides building relationships, is to help us take apart pieces of traditional understanding of Scripture that might hold us back from fully living into our own discipleship. Whether it be shame, fear, or any form of underestimating what God can do with us as friends and followers of Jesus, there is a lot in our religious tradition that has been left as stumbling blocks to us, and often very intentionally. These stumbling blocks, over time, we might find more useful as a foundation for renewed approaches to life. For instance, what if instead of reading the Bible with the typical patriarchal and institutional lens, we instead focused on the true subversiveness of Scripture from its own time and now? An example of this comes from Genesis and what we often call the curse of pain during childbirth, which Eve incurs, and for all the women in the second creation story in Genesis. And yes, there are two creation stories in the first two chapters of Genesis. What if we read that pain instead as a blessing, because it is divine power in women's bodies that allows them to give birth in the first place? The fact that women can bring new life, true Genesis, into this world is a godlike act, and being a life giver was certainly understood in the ancient world to be a divine attribute. Doesn't that seem a bit more like something that's been rejected over time, but could help us build entire new theologies and whole new understandings of God's love for our very real, very physical human bodies? How else might we get informed about Scripture and how it actually values our lives, our physical bodies, rather than simply some metaphysical hereafter? God is always using things we reject as people to build more room for love, courage, compassion, and mercy, and speaking truth to power in this world. God is using things we reject to build more joy in the world. We could just as aptly be under deconstruction, and I'm here for it. We only need to reconsider things from time to time. And who knows, Maybe the next thing that falls away or that we can deconstruct intentionally will become the new foundation of God's vision to take hold in this world through us. Whatever phase you might be in, being built up or being remodeled or simply tearing away the rot from your life, God is at work all the time, and God is alive in that unfolding. God always does wonders with what we see as waste. I hope you have a pleasant day.